Okay, the purpose of this video is to show you how to do Unit 2, Activity 5, which introduces you to the ledger, trial balance, and T accounts. And so this is a multi-stepped assignment, so it'll probably take you a little while to do, especially since this is your first shot at using these specific types of spreadsheets or these specific types of financial instruments or statements, I guess you would call them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down and we're going to look at the stuff that they have provided for us. Once we've talked about what that is, then we can get into what are the steps that you need to take to complete this thing. So the first thing, using the T accounts, open the T accounts template, open the T accounts with balances from the balance sheet below. Okay, so that's the first thing that we need to do. So what I have highlighted there. So you're going to want to click on that template hyperlink, and that's going to download a spreadsheet for you, an Excel spreadsheet. When you open that up, it's going to look like this. So I've got that pre-downloaded and opened. And you're going to have the first page here, which is called the ledger. And it's got a bunch of T accounts already loaded into it. So it is ready for us to input numbers into. The other thing to note is that there are different workbooks within, or that's not the right word, pages. There's a specific term for these and it's escaping me right now, but there are several pages to one workbook here. So we've got the ledger, but when you go down and click on these tabs down here, you'll see that you have something called the trial balance. You click on that, it's going to bring up a different spreadsheet. Which is something we'll also need for this assignment. So as I mentioned, this is multi-stepped. This is the second step. And then the third step is doing the balance sheet, which you guys are familiar with or you've seen before, and you've actually created a couple now at this point. When you click on that tab, it'll open up the balance sheet spreadsheet. So this will be the last thing that we complete. So that's the first thing to note, is how to navigate between those tabs and get to those different spreadsheets. So going to the ledger, that's the first thing that we have to do. And that's what it's referring to in this highlighted sentence that I have here. So open the T accounts with balances from the balance sheet below. So if we look below, we have this balance sheet, which looks very similar to the ones that you guys have put together so far. Maybe the only difference is they don't have the box or borders around them. So it looks a little bit more, I don't know, unrestricted possibly or something. But you'll notice you have the assets here on the left. You got the liabilities on the right, as well as the owner's equity section, which has the capital and then the total liabilities and owner's equity. So hopefully at this point, you guys have put together two balance sheets. So you kind of are familiar with what's on them and how they're organized or arranged. So the reason that we need this is these are going to tell us our beginning balances in each of our T accounts. So as we go through here, you're going to see these amounts and the accounts that they're associated with. So we've got a cash account with 1,280. Yeah, I forgot about this. So that comma is like in the wrong place. So really it's 12,850. So be aware of that when you're putting this in. Accounts receivable, it looks like we do not have any. Supplies, $950 worth of supplies, computer, etc. So we're going to put these numbers into our T accounts to start them off. Okay, so what that means is we'll look at the account cash and we'll grab this number here. I'm going to copy and paste it. You're welcome to do that, or you can move it over yourself, however you want to do that. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to go over to my ledger, my T accounts page, and I'm going to look for the T account that is labeled cash, right? So it's over here in the top left-hand corner of our spreadsheet. So as you can see, there's nothing in there, but it's pre-labeled for us, account cash. All right, and then this is where it gets a little tricky, or this is where you have to apply maybe one of the most foundational concepts in accounting. beyond just the basic counting equation of assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. You've also got this idea of debits and credits. Okay, so in this video, I don't really want to get into debits and credits, especially. I will make note of why I'm putting things where. But if you are struggling with that concept, I highly recommend going back to the content page of this activity or this assignment. So if you go to the top and hit content, and of course, you should read all of this stuff and look at it. Look at the long description that has a nice like PowerPoint that describes this whole thing. It tells you about business transactions and all of that. So all of that's important and you should read that. But down here at the bottom in the resource section, they have this thing where they say, watch this video to learn about debits and credits. So if you open that link up, it's going to take you to a YouTube video that is really helpful as far as describing what a debit is and what a credit is, and then also gives you a way of remembering when something is a debit or a credit. So if you have not watched that video, you should pause this one and you should go watch this other one. Okay, and this will give you some idea of when something's a debit and when's it a credit. So as I say, as I go through this assignment, I'm going to do my best to kind of talk out why I'm putting something somewhere, but it won't be enough probably for it to like stick in your mind. Whereas that other video gives you kind of a reference or a template for remembering. Okay. So anyway, we've got this cash account that we're looking at and the amount that we want to put in our T account. So $12,850. So I'm going to go over here. And we know that the cash account is an asset account, right? We've gotten comfortable with that in making our balance sheet. Now the question is an asset account a debit account or is it a credit account? And the answer to that is it is a debit account, meaning it carries a debit balance. So when we add things to an asset account, we want to put it on the debit side. The debit side is this left-hand side here. So it's on the outside of the balance sheet, which if you watch that other video I was referencing will be of some use to you. So anyway, this is a debit account. And so in order to add our $12,850 to it, we're going to put it on the debit side of the ledger. So I'm going to copy and paste that in. Okay. So it's good that it did that. This is a common thing where you put a number in or whatever, and it's too big for the cell. And so what it does is it shows you all of these pound signs, or as we call them now, hashtag signs. That just means there's not enough space to display the number in the cell. So for this, I'm just going to hit match destination formatting. It should make it smaller. But the other thing you can do is go up to the top of the column, right between the letters, and you're going to get that kind of cross sign with the arrows on either side. You can pull that left or you can pull that right, and you can make the cell bigger or smaller to accommodate whatever numbers or letters that you have in that cell. So if you're getting those hashtags or pound signs, that's what's going on. You got to make the column wider. All right. So that's how you do that. Okay. So we've loaded up the amount that's currently in our cash account. We put it on the debit side because cash is an asset and assets are debit accounts. So that's good. So we got to go on to our next one. Accounts receivable. As we see, there's nothing in there, so we don't have to add anything to the accounts receivable account. Supplies. We've got $950 worth of supplies. Again, supplies is an asset account. And we've got our T account here for supplies. So we are going to add to this asset account. And when you add to an asset account, it's always a debit. So what was it? $950. Okay. I'm going to skip the rest. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah, I think I can. Okay, so, okay, I won't skip it, but what I'll do is I'll just put these in quickly without explaining everything that I'm doing as far as the assets. So computer is 1200. So I'm gonna find that. I'll put that in. Truck is 10,000. So let me grab that. Where's my truck? There it is. Equipment is 11,000. Equipment's here. Then, okay, total assets 36,000. This number we don't have to worry about yet. This is a totaling of the assets, which we don't have to worry about on the ledger. Liabilities, we don't have any liabilities, so that's good. This is a business that's running very lean operation. They don't owe money to anybody, so that's great. And then we've got manning capital, 36,000. So this is something that changes. So manning capital is a capital account, as you can see there. A capital account is over there on the right-hand side of the balance sheet. And it's under the owner's equity section. And so anytime that we add to a capital account, that is going to be a credit. So that's different than the assets. So anytime you add to a capital account, it is a credit. So that's going to be 36,000 on the credit side. So this right-hand side of the T account. What did I say? 36,000. So we're going to put that in there. Right. And then our total liabilities and owner's equity is 36,000. All right, so that we don't have to put in there because it's kind of like the total assets. It's just a sum of whatever was in those accounts. So nothing to do on our ledger yet with those. All right, so I've got all the amounts that are relevant from our balance sheet loaded onto our T accounts. So that's what it looks like to start off with. We haven't done any business yet. We haven't had any transactions. We just have these amounts in these accounts, which rhymes. All right, so we've got that. Let's see. The next thing that we need to do is then look at this list of transactions down here in the green box. And you guys have gotten sort of used to, through our last assignment and our last activity with the transaction analysis sheet, you've gotten used to kind of analyzing transactions and deciding what accounts would be affected by a transaction and also how it would be affected, either increasing or decreasing. So this just adds a little level of kind of accounting know-how to it now. So instead of saying increasing or decreasing, you're going to be deciding if it is a debit or a credit, right? And debit or a credit is dictated by what account it's in and whether that is a debit account or a credit account. So as I said, that other video is going to help you kind of keep that straight. And I'll try to make references to it as I go through a couple of these. I think I'm just going to do like the first two as an example, and then I'll let you guys work through the rest of them. But I'll try to take the first two through. Actually, well, we'll see. I want to show you how to do the trial balance and the balance sheet, but I might have to have the whole T account done in order to do that. So let me see if I can think about how to do that. But anyway, in the meantime, first one, E. Manning. This is our first transaction for this business. E. Manning, the owner, has invested $40,000 more into our business. Okay, so this is just like your transaction analysis sheet. We got to figure out what accounts are affected. So the owner is putting $40,000 of their personal money into the business. So first of all, where do we put money when it comes into our business? Put it in our cash account. So it's ready to spend on the needs of the business, right? So that $40,000 we are going to add to our cash account. So I'm going to go over to the spreadsheet, to the ledger, the T accounts, and underneath our starting balance in the cash account, I'm just going to put 40,000. And remember, we're putting it on the debit side because a cash account is an asset account, and the asset accounts hold a debit balance. So when we add to it, we add on the debit side. When we take away from it, we take away from it on the credit side. So that's kind of how that works. All right, so that's our first piece of that transaction. Now remember, from your transaction analysis sheet, every transaction needs to affect at least two accounts, right? So it's affected our cash account, and then this is also going to go into our capital account. Capital is the amount of money that the business is worth in total, right? That the owner has a stake in, or has the ability to pull out if they so choose. So this 40,000 will also be recorded in the capital account. As we see from our first balance that we put in there, the 36,000, this is a credit account. Capital is recorded on the owner's equity side of the balance sheet. Everything, when you add to those types of accounts in the equity section, they are a credit balance. So when you add to it, it's going to be a credit. So 40,000. Okay. So good. So that is our first transaction loaded up there. There's nothing else that we need to do. We can move on to the next one. Number 2, borrowed 45,000 from the bank, which was deposited in the business bank account. Okay, so $45,000. Again, that's money coming into our business that we're just going to be using to run the business, right? So just like the first one, when we get money into the business, we're putting it into our cash account. Again, since that's adding to our asset account, it's going to be a debit, and we're just going to put it right under that 40,000 that the owner put in. But this one is a bank loan. Now, what other account is going to be affected by this? So I see business bank account, see bank, okay, bank. Bank loan, we're borrowing it from the bank, so it's a bank loan. Let's see if there's an account that is labeled bank loan. Yes, there is. Okay, so bank loan. Okay, so we are going to put this into our bank loan account. Now, the question is, of course, do we put it in as a debit or do we put it as a credit? Liabilities are over there on the right-hand side of the balance sheet. And anytime that you add to a liability account, it is a credit. Liabilities hold credit balances. So that's going to be our first amount that goes into the bank loan, and it is going to be credited. So we're going to put it on the credit side, 45,000. And those are the two accounts affected by that. No others, so we can move on to the next transaction. Let's see, paid the monthly rent. So this is going to be the last transaction that I do with you guys as the example, because I don't want to do the whole thing for you. Obviously, I want to give you the opportunity to practice. So we'll do this third one. I will have done 1/3 of them for you, and then you can figure out how to do the rest of them. Obviously, if you're in class, you can ask me how to do it. If you're hitting the wall or getting into trouble with it. But anyway, paid $7,500 for the monthly rent. Okay, so this is the first transaction where money is coming out of the business. So there's money leaving the business in order to pay our landlord the rent. So first account that's going to be affected by this is going to be our cash account. This money's coming out of our bank account or out of our cash account. And so we're going to go over to our bank account or our cash account. And so far, we've just been adding money to it here in the debit column. But this one is money leaving the business or leaving our cash account. So instead of a debit, this one is going to be a credit. Okay, so anytime that you take away from an asset account or you decrease an asset account, it's a credit. So that's why we're doing it in this case. So 7500. Right. And as you go along, you're going to notice that these entries are affecting these totals down here. And then you'll also notice that on the asset accounts, the balance is being held in the debit side, the left-hand side. And on the liability side, or sorry, on the credits or the liabilities of what we have here, or the equity accounts, those totals or balances are being held on the credit side. So you'll notice that in the capital account. You'll also notice that in our bank loan account. All right, so those should be adding up for you on their own, or being calculated for you by the spreadsheet. Okay, so 7,500 left our cash account to pay for the rent. And then remember that we need one other account affected by this. And so money leaving the business is going to also affect our capital. So the amount of money that the business can claim to have, right, in total. Not just in cash holdings, but in everything, in our assets and all of those sorts of things. So when money leaves our business, we have to take it also away from our total capital. So far, we've only added to the capital. But in this instance, we've got that 7,500 leaving the business to pay for rent. So we are going to debit that. It'll be the opposite side. So again, we'll put in 7,500. And that does a little calculation for you. So you can see that our capital balance has gone down by $7,500. Right. Okay, so that is how you do the ledger portion, or the T account portion of this assignment. What I'll do is I'll see if I can show you how to do the trial balance, and I won't get into the balance sheet because you guys, like I said, have had 2 chances so far at making a balance sheet. So you should be fairly familiar with how to do that, but I will show you the trial balance, or I'll try to show it to you. By the time that you have all of these transactions done, you'll probably have a couple of things added to each one of these accounts, and which will, of course, affect the overall balance of the account down here at the bottom, like I just showed you. So these are, the very bottom number is the total held in these accounts at this moment, right? These are going to be what you are transferring over to your trial balance sheet. So that trial balance sheet, remember, we have these tabs down here. To get to the trial balance, you just click on that down there and it'll flip over to that page of the workbook. And the trial balance is to see if you've loaded all of your transactions in properly. And if you have, these 2 columns, the debit column and the credit column, will balance, right? So if we've put everything in correctly, these 2 things will balance. So as it stands, let's pretend that we're done with our transactions. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our ledger, and we are just going to grab the totals and put them into the trial balance. So as of now, if this were finished, our total for the cash account would be 90,350. So I can just copy and paste that and put it in there. Maybe I can't actually. There's a way of doing this and I'm blanking on it. It's like hitting equals and something else, but I don't remember the exact thing. That might actually be in the content section of our assignment. No, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. We can remember the numbers for now, but there is like a fast way of doing this. So if you have to do a bunch of these things, there's like a Excel command that'll let you do it. If you know what it is, remind me in class. That'd be super helpful. Anyway, so 90,350. I'm going to put that in our trial balance on the debit side because it's a debit account. 90,350. And remember, if you're forgetting if it's a debit or a credit account, just look at what side the total's on. So this one is on the debit side. Over here in our capital account, the total is on the credit side. So if you forget, that's how you can remember. Supplies we have at 950. So I'm going to put that in the supplies account. Computers up next. So we got 1200. Remember, these aren't the right numbers of the finished product because I didn't do all the transactions, right? So if you turn this in like this, I'll know that you're listening to this video on mute and you're just grabbing screenshots of what I was doing, right? Truck. Our truck account as it sits is 10,000 in the debit. Equipment was 11,000 debit side. Accounts receivable, I don't believe we had anything in it, so that's 0. Put 0, although I think that's implied by being blank, but anyway. Accounts payable, we had 0. Loan, we do have something in that one. 45,000. So remember, loan. The total is over there on the credit side, so you want to put this on the credit side of the trial balance. So that'll be our first one over on that side. Exciting. And then manning capital, what do we have in that one? That one's been affected a little bit, 68,500, and it's over there on the credit side. Okay, so so far everything that we've done hasn't thrown this thing off, hasn't thrown it out of balance. If you look down here, you see that we have the same exact number on both the debit side and the credit side, which means nothing's out of whack. We didn't do anything improperly. All is well in the accounting world. Right. So that's how you do the trial balance. So once you get your transactions loaded into the ledger, you grab the totals off the bottom and you put them into the trial balance. And then the last thing to do, as I said, I'm not going to show you explicitly how to do the balance sheet, but you will make the balance sheet out of your new numbers from your trial balance. So now in your cash account, you have 90,350. So you'll load that over here. You'll write in cash like you've done before, and then you will write the number. On the balance sheet, there's nothing to worry about as far as debits and credits. Okay, so you don't have to worry about like picking a side to put it on or anything like that. You can just put the number that's there on the trial balance, 90,350. Right, and then under that, put your next account, supplies, computer, truck, equipment, etc. Load it in like you've done before. And at the end, if you've done it right, those two numbers should add up to, or not add up, they should be the same. They should balance. So the total assets should balance with the total liabilities and owner's equity. Right, so hopefully I didn't run through that last part too quickly, but I think you guys got it. I'm sure I've rambled on long enough. Obviously, if you do need help with this, let me know in class, and we of course can figure it out, but I hope that helped. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.